For those who are out of the loop on what EDP445 has been up to in the last few months, he has recently had to sell some of his most sentimental items from his past as an actually respected YouTuber to feed his crippling porn and food addiction. This includes his jerseys and posters, the most well-known and tragic of which being his 100K play button. One object he sold that you won't hear about online, however, is his rarely seen grand piano. EDP never used this piano in any video, likely because he lacked the drive to ever better himself and learn a skill instead of jerking off all day and eating junk food, but if anything, this was an even better deal for me, as I knew his hands had not sullied the instrument often enough to be untouchable to the average human being with a sense of shame. If you didn't know what you were looking at, the price tag of $1,000 might sound a little outrageous to you for a second-hand piano. You can go on Craigslist and find hundreds of people trying to sell, or outright giving them out for free because pianos are so large and difficult to export. But the particular piano EDP had owned and listed online for sale, seemingly unbeknownst to him, was much more valuable. It was a 1927 Steinway piano and good condition. Looking at the photos on his website store page, the only maintenance I thought it might need after buying was a quick tune-up and dusting. For those unaware, Steinway pianos are well known as the most prestige, painstaking handcrafted pianos one can buy. Go for hundreds of thousands of dollars, to millions. How EDP came in possession of such a magnificent and expensive piano is beyond me. I assumed that one of his great-grandparents must have either been very wealthy or owned a music store, and EDP, being as uneducated as he is, had no idea what he had his hands on. Seeing my opportunity, I swooped in and bought the piano immediately. Despite the fact that I knew I was technically giving $1,000 to a certified creep, I decided how hard I would be grifting him from what he could have gotten was worth it, and because EDP was only 40 miles away from my house, I hired a moving truck to come to his house and bring it to me in my secluded farmhouse in the county. As well as being a piano master, I grow wheat for a flour company I won't name for privacy reasons, whose main market is for bakeries and cake shops across the US. After receiving the piano from the movers, I had them place it in my living room. Only then did I get a closer look at the piano. Although the wood and varnish was in as good a shape as I had thought it looked in the pictures, something immediately stood out to me as odd. There was no name on the front. All that sat on the headboard to hint at what company made this instrument was a single golden cupcake, exquisitely drawn, detailed, and beautiful. Despite its beauty, however, it was not at all what I had seen in the original listing. At this realization, I tried to think positively. Sure, I might not have a piano I could brag about to my pianist friends, and I'd never get the clout I deserved in the pianist community, at least not for now. I could still explain it away as a nice heartfelt gift from one of the companies I worked with. Satisfied with this excuse, no longer feeling ripped off, I decided to test and see how out of tune the piano was from what would have been likely decades of neglect. To my surprise, the first key I pressed was perfectly in tune. Lucky guess, I thought, chuckling to myself, as I went to play the next key. Again, the key rang out in perfect pitch. Surprised, I went and hit each key one by one, and without fail, the notes rang like the thing had been tuned by the greatest minds in piano tuning just minutes before my finger hit that first key. I was once again met with my second conundrum when it came to this instrument. Had I misjudged EDP? Maybe he was secretly a piano master, but was too afraid, or didn't feel like showing it to his audience of mostly preteens who could never appreciate good music. Or, much darker, maybe this piano once lay deep in one of EDP's many underground dungeons, serenading his prisoners one last time with the most beautiful music before they met their demise. Or in one of the cocktail lounges also in the dungeon for guests, where fresh cupcakes, liquor, and the latest jazz tunes were played away from the prying eyes of the WL community. Regardless of how long I racked my brain, I was unable to find a satisfying scenario in which to satisfy how the piano was so well tuned despite EDP never appearing to be able to play on camera. To soothe this headache, I decided to play a simple melody. I played and played, deep into the night, where the light of the full moon reflected brightly on me and my new beautiful and mysterious instrument. But as the hour hand hit 3 a.m., I noticed something peculiar. With each new note I played, I felt the ground beneath me lightly shake. To make sure I wasn't just playing more loudly than I thought I had been, hitting a key as light as I could, I still heard the rumbling beneath me. There was no way the rumbling I was feeling could be construction, neighbors, or traffic, as I lived a good 30 miles away from salvation in the woods, so I decided to continue playing, not putting much thought into it. I thought at the time I might have just been hallucinating from staying up so late at night. If I could go back and warn my former self, I would be screaming at them to simply close the case and go to bed, but myself at that moment had no idea what was coming for me. To see if I could eventually find the source of these strange rumbles. With each key I pressed, the rumbling beneath me got subtly louder, and my hallucinating hypothesis was growing ever invalidated by the repeated intensity of the thumps. Eventually, the thumping got so loud it shook the whole house, to the point I was sure if I kept playing, the foundations would collapse on top of me. I then decided to stop playing, as whatever cause there was behind these thunderous booms shaking me to my very core wasn't worth doing irrefutable damage to myself and the house. Right after the last note I decided to play rang out, however, a new sound caught my attention. A heavy, raspy breathing could be heard through the window directly to my right, but whatever lay behind it was made impossible to see due to the fact I had the curtains drawn down in front of it. I could, however, see the silhouette of what appeared to be a large humanoid creature. Cast by the light of the moon, if it weren't for the breathing, I would have likely never noticed its silhouette against the window, as the strange rasping creature's frame almost entirely blocked the light from the moon directly hitting that side of the house. Startled, I leaped back, and unintentionally knocked my 13-inch bad dragon I had laying on top the piano, which landed on the keys with a loud plop. Just then, a large black entity broke through my wall and window, passing through it as if they were only made of plywood and sugar glass, and lunged at me. Dodging its attack, I ran towards the kitchen to find something to defend myself. Just then, the creature bellowed out,
"Hi man, chill, I was up. Only here for a cupcake, for real, for real."
Starstruck, I stared at it in disbelief, as it awkwardly shifted around across the room from me, eventually extending its fist and gargling out,
"Fist bump."
"I don't fist bump people like you," I replied. My remark had obviously offended whoever this man was, but who could blame me? Had just broken into my house and I had felt I was going to die if I hadn't had acted so quickly.
"Come on man. Surely you have at least one internet legend like myself could partake in like, the fridge or something. I just came here for a treat man."
He said this as he slowly approached me. "Stay back," I shouted. "My phone, where the hell was my phone?" I thought while looking around desperately for something, anything I could call the police on. Just then, like God had heard my prayers, I heard my phone loudly blaring the To Catch a Predator end credit theme. The man hissed, pulled his phone out, and proceeded to jog off out of the hole he had broken through in my wall, which I only then noticed was perfectly shaped in his silhouette like an old cartoon. It's been 3 weeks since the incident. I decided to have the piano locked away in a storage unit my family owned a few miles down from my house, and I have since been living in and out of hotels while the repair men are fixing my wall. But I still am not sure if I should move back in, or sell the property and relocate, because that man now knows where I live. Moral of the story is, even if it seems like a steal, never buy anything from EDP445, because it is most likely haunted by an entity who will find where you live and try to steal your cupcakes.